Hello friends, I welcome you all to my channel. This is Anirudh. So today I thought of discussing a zoology topic with you, and yes, I'm taking the topic of synapse for discussion. Okay, synapse, and that pertains to the topic of neural control and coordination, right? So let's actually formally define synapse and start this lecture. Okay, so synapse is a junction. It is a junction between two neurons. As we all know, this is something that is obvious that we all know about synapse just from our school days. Between two neurons, from the dendrite end of the one neuron, I mean the axonal end of one neuron and the dendrite of the other neuron, they will link together to form a junction between two neurons to facilitate the transfer of impulses from one neuron to another neuron. That's it. So what do we have here? I have three components for this. Let's understand the three components of synapse. Okay, so the synapse contains three parts. One is called by the name of presynaptic membrane. Okay, and the second one is the synaptic cleft. Okay, and this synaptic cleft, as per our textbook, can be present or absent. Both are possible. Okay, presynaptic cleft can be present very big, or it can be also a very small area, or it can be even absent, right? So let's go to the third point. That is the third component here. This is the second component, this is the third component, and your third component is, yes, postsynaptic membrane. So if I try making a simple representation over here, this is the synaptic knob. Okay, this is the synaptic knob. That means the end point of an axon. Okay, so yes, the end point of axon, it divides into axonites, and that axonites, each of them will be actually terminating in the form of a synaptic knob. So you call this as the synaptic knob, and this is the presynaptic membrane. This is the presynaptic membrane, and you have a gap over here, and this gap is called by the name of the synaptic cleft, right? And the dendrite of the next neuron is starting, so this is the other neuron. So this is called by the name of the postsynaptic membrane. So this is the postsynaptic membrane. So it's very simple. So from here on, it is the axon. Axon terminates in the presynaptic membrane, which is the membrane of the outermost membrane of the synaptic cleft, I mean synaptic knob. So this is called by the name of synaptic knob. You have a presynaptic membrane, you have a synaptic cleft, and you have a postsynaptic membrane. So this will be leading to the dendrite of the next neuron. Very simple. So let's formally classify this. Let's talk about the classification now. Of what? Of synapse. So there are two types of synapse present in our body. We all know that. So the two types of synapse are as follows. You have an electrical synapse and you have a chemical synapse. Let's write it here itself. Otherwise my image will go over this. I hope this is visible to you now. So electrical synapse and chemical synapse, let's understand the differences between them. That is a very probable question in the exam. Very important. Okay. Right. So electrical synapse are, the first point is rare in our system. In our body, the most common synapses, wherever you see the most common synapses, the maximum number of synapses are this one. So this is the sign that I use for most common. After you clear your NEET exam, you get into MBBS and you start learning for the next exam that is waiting for you after your MBBS. You will start using these kind of technical notations in your notes. Most common, least common, most important, most significant, all these kind of things will be becoming more important for you. So like that, if I just talk about the most common synapses in your body, majority of them, more than 90% of the synapses are obviously your chemical synapses. Electrical synapses are very, very rare. Okay, so electrical synapse, if you just see about this, I have to say pre and post synaptic membrane. Okay, presynaptic membrane and the postsynaptic membrane are in close proximity. What do I mean by that? If they are in very close proximity, then if this is the presynaptic membrane, synaptic knob and presynaptic membrane, the next Postsynaptic membrane will be somewhat like this. See, this looks like that it doesn't have any synaptic cleft. So you don't have synaptic cleft here. So your synaptic clefts are absent. Okay, synaptic clefts are actually very much negligible when you come to electrical synapses, because you don't need a gap for transmitting the impulses. Impulses will be directly transferred between this neuron to other neuron, just like electrical impulses. So you have electrical impulses over here. Okay, so what are the impulses here? Electrical impulses itself. So let us imagine that current is flowing through a wire. Okay, current is flowing through a wire. If I keep the next wire at a distance like this, will the current jump from this to the other side? No, as long as the potential is small. You know, in our body the potential of current is very small, potential difference is very small, and the current flowing is very much low, less than even 1 ampere, point something ampere is the current amount of current flowing inside the body. So if I keep these two wires at a very great depth and I call this as the big synaptic cleft, then the current will not be able to jump from this point to this point. This is not possible. So I have to keep both these neurons at very great proximity, that it has to go from here to the other side without any delay. Okay, so the gap should be very small, and the current is actually electrical impulse, and that flows directly from, so it flows directly from one neuron to the other. Why can it directly form? Because there is no big gap between the neurons. There is no synaptic cleft over here. But here I have to say that you have a very big synaptic cleft. So the pre and post synaptic membrane are distant apart, okay, from each other. So if I keep one neuron like this is the pre-synaptic membrane, the post-synaptic membrane will be at a great distance, and you have a synaptic cleft in between. So you call this as the synaptic cleft. So your synaptic cleft is very much obvious, it is present. Synaptic cleft is present in these kind of chemical synapses. That's it. Now here it is flowing as electrical impulses, right? So the current, the impulses are transmitted as electrical impulses, just like it flows in a neuron. The same impulse jumps to the other neuron. Why? Because there is no gap between the neurons. The two neurons are very much close apart, very much close to each other, that there is no synaptic cleft between each other. So from one neuron to the other neuron it jumps very easily. But here it requires the transmission of impulses in the form of chemical messengers. Is in the form of chemical messengers. Okay, and you call these chemical messengers as the neurotransmitters. Okay, this is your neurotransmitters. So you have the neurotransmitters over here, and these neurotransmitters are synthesized over here. These are the neurotransmitters which I am synthesizing in the presynaptic knob. Okay, synaptic knob over here. It is synthesized within the presynaptic membrane, whatever lies inside here, synaptic knob, and these are actually jumping over from this area to the other area. So your neurotransmitters are actually filled over like this in the synaptic cleft. Now you have certain receptors over here on the postsynaptic membrane. On the postsynaptic membrane you have something called by the name of receptors. I will write it with a smaller thing. This is more difficult in this way. So you have something called by the name of receptors. To these receptors your neurotransmitters will attach, and once it attaches it will evoke depolarization in the second neuron, and your current will start flowing, and your action potential will start flowing in the next neuron. So these neurotransmitters are synthesized in the synaptic knob. They are flowing into the synaptic cleft, and they bind onto the receptors which are present on the postsynaptic membrane, and once they join into the postsynaptic membrane, the sodium channels will open in the postsynaptic membrane, and what happens is sodium will be coming into the cell. Reversal of polarity, action potential in the second neuron, in the postsynaptic membrane, in the second neuron, and in the second neuron the action potential is transmitted throughout the length of the second neuron, and this action potential continues from here, right? So we'll see this in great detail after some time. So guys, as we have discussed, there are two types of synapses, electrical and chemical. Which of these will be faster? Electrical is faster. Okay, so this point also you can add over here. Your electrical synapse is faster transmission. The impulses are transmitted very quick because it is electric current. You know how much time is required for current to reach from one point to the other point. It is very fast. And chemical is slow. Okay, chemical synapse is slow, and we are supposed to know only chemical synapse for the exam. So we are talking about the chemical synapse, and you have a very important diagram in your textbook. Make sure that you learn everything from this diagram. It can be an image-based questions, although NEET is not asking so many image-based questions these days. It is very rare in NEET exam, but if they want to ask, this is a very good, probable question that is there in your textbook, chemical synapse. Let's understand this. So these are your things that they have marked in the. These are the components of a chemical synapse that is marked in the textbook of NCERT. So these things we need to understand in this particular very rough adjustment diagram that I have made over here. Okay. Let us start from the synapse here. Okay, synapse is what we are learning. Synapse has three components. We know presynaptic membrane, you have a synaptic cleft, and you have a postsynaptic membrane also. Now, what is presynaptic membrane? Which is the presynaptic membrane here? You have a presynaptic membrane. This is your presynaptic membrane. Okay, and this will be your postsynaptic membrane. And this is called by the name of your synaptic cleft. The gap between presynaptic membrane and postsynaptic membrane. This is your synaptic cleft. It is a cleft between the presynaptic and postsynaptic membrane. Point is, you have your neurotransmitters which are produced over here. Now, when you produce neurotransmitters in the presynaptic membrane, they are stored in the form of vesicles over here. So, these are called by the name of vesicles. What are vesicles? How will I define vesicles? Defining vesicles is very easy. You have a membrane bound structures. Okay, it has a membrane like your plasma membrane. It has a membrane, and with this in particular, this small spherical structures made up of a membrane, you have some kind of granules inside, and these things are your neurotransmitters. Okay, so this is your neurotransmitters. Where are they produced? They are produced by chemical reaction or your reactions that are happening inside the body. Certain reactions, just like we learn in the topic of photosynthesis in higher plants or even respiration in plants, we have a lot of reaction one after the other. We make a lot of reactants coming, so this becomes that, that becomes that, glucose to glucose 6-phosphate, glucose 6-phosphate to fructose 6-phosphate. Likewise, this kind of a series of reaction occurs, and that culminates in the formation of these kind of chemicals that are called by the name of neurotransmitters. Just like that, you have some other reactions here. These are actually going to form these kind of neurotransmitters. Okay, that's it. Just like what every reaction in your body is just like what you learn in the topic of respiration. Now your neurotransmitters are actually ready inside this particular vesicles. Okay, now let us say that an impulse is coming here. An impulse, I mean the electrical impulse action potential is traveling through the length of the axon. You have a neuron over here. So this neuron has an axon like this. Let us say that this particular action potential starts over here, isn't it? Axon hillock. So action potential starts over here, obviously. And from this point, what happens is your action potential is transmitted from this point to this entire length of the axon, and that is actually ending in the form of synaptic knob. Now this action potential reaches over here. So your action potential is reaching over here. Once it reaches over here, all these vesicles will actually migrate towards the presynaptic membrane. It migrates over here. It moves to the presynaptic membrane and it fuses with the presynaptic membrane. So it fuses over here. It is fusing with the membrane of the presynaptic membrane. So obviously, what you have is something like this, and all the content is actually released into the synaptic cleft. That is, neurotransmitters are released into the synaptic cleft. So it fills in the synaptic cleft like this. Right? Okay. So what is there after that? What happens after this? What happens after this is very simple. You have receptors over the surface of the postsynaptic membrane. So these are called by the name of receptors. Something to attach with. So what will happen here? These neurotransmitters will come and attach over the receptors. Very simple. This will attach over the receptors like this. So it is attaching the receptor onto the receptors like this. Very easily understandable. Now when it attaches over the receptors, what will happen? We know that you have channels on the membrane of a neuron. What are the channels on the membrane? They have sodium channels, potassium channels, and sodium potassium ATPase. Out of this, what will open now? You will have your sodium channels which will be opening at this moment. Now your sodium channels on the presynaptic membrane will be opening. So this will open on the presynaptic membrane. Once your sodium channels in the presynaptic membrane opens, you will have an influx of sodium into the postsynaptic membrane. Sodium will influx into it. So there is a high concentration of sodium outside the axon. Just like that, there is a high concentration of sodium outside this also. Sodium will come inside. More positive charge inside. More positive charge inside, outside will be more negative charges. It is a relative concentration of sodium which is outside and inside this particular axon, which is determining the net charge outside and inside. So outside it will be more negative, inside is more positive. This is leading to something called by the name of an action potential. And this action potential will transmit throughout the length of your axon. So it transmits or it passes over to the axon, through the axon till it reaches the next synaptic knob. That's it. So I hope you got the idea over here. Let us now try to mark all the other things that are there in the textbook. Axon. What is the axon here? This is your axon. Axon is ending in synaptic knob. Axon is ending in axon terminal. Terminal means the end of something. Axon is ending in axon terminal. Axon is ending in axon terminal. So this is your axon terminal. This is your axon terminal, also called by the name of synaptic knob. So axon terminals are also called by the name of synaptic knob, and it is there the axon is terminating. Axon is terminating, and it is here your neurotransmitters, NT stands for neurotransmitters, are synthesized in the synaptic knob, and it is stored in the form of vesicles. Action potential comes over here. There is peripheralization, or you can say there is migration of the vesicles onto the presynaptic membrane, fusing with the presynaptic membrane, releasing the neurotransmitters into the synaptic cleft, which will then bind over to the receptors for the neurotransmitters on the postsynaptic membrane, and that leads to depolarization of the postsynaptic membrane. This is depolarization. I mean, current is flowing, isn't it? Action potential is due to an influx of sodium. That's it. Now, this particular depolarization can be excitatory or inhibitory. That is a very important sentence that you need to understand here. Okay. So this is your axon terminal, and that's it. Receptors and neurotransmitters, everything need to be marked in this particular diagram. Now check that diagram in the textbook and start understanding each and every part over here. So I have marked everything that is given in the textbook over here. Try to understand that from that particular diagram itself. Now this particular potential can be excitatory or inhibitory. That's it. We don't need to go into much details over here. Say some action is happening. Due to a chemical impulse, synapse, an impulse is coming over here that can either stop the action or it can lead to an action. That's the basic meaning of excitatory or inhibitory. So these are the two types of signals that can occur with the help of a chemical synapse. Why am I saying that this is important? This is important because it is given in the textbook. They can ask you as to mark which of the following statements are correct. Like one of the statements can be the action potential can be excitatory or inhibitory. Second statement can be action potential is only excitatory. Third one is only inhibitory, and fourth one is obviously none of these. So what will you mark then? Your answer should be excitatory or inhibitory. Both are possible. So this is a very important sentence given in the textbook. Mark it then and there, and even before the exam you are supposed to read the important sentences which are given in your textbook. Okay. So that's it. So let's proceed to further details now. Now we will discuss something on neurotransmitters. Okay, certain neurotransmitters present in your body. One of them is the acetylcholine. Second one is adrenaline. This is also called by the name of epinephrine. Epinephrine, right? It's synthesized by the adrenal medulla. And third one is noradrenaline or norepinephrine. Okay. Fourth one is dopamine. Fifth one will be, say, what is the dopamine? Okay, you can talk about glycine now. This is an amino acid. See, you might be wondering, okay, acetylcholine is okay. Adrenaline is something that is synthesized with adrenal medulla. Is it a hormone or is it a neurotransmitter? These are certain substances which has different roles. Okay, adrenaline is the fight and flight hormone. It increases the heart rate. It increases your muscular tension. It increases the conductivity of heart. It increases the cardiac output. I do agree with that. But point is, how is it increasing? How is adrenaline increasing? Adrenaline is present in the sympathetic nervous system. So if this is the heart, this is a heart, and there is a neuron which is actually the sympathetic nervous system, or the neuron which is a part of the sympathetic nervous system supplying the heart. Your adrenaline is the neurotransmitter. This adrenaline, which is demarcated as ADR, is actually falling on the heart now, and due to the effect of the adrenaline, your heart rate will increase, your cardiac output will increase, and the conductivity of heart will also increase. That's how adrenaline works as a neurotransmitter. There can be, in the blood also adrenaline can be there, and this adrenaline can also act on the heart from the blood side also. Yes, another one will be GABA. Okay, gamma amino butyric acid. Gamma aminobutyric acid is the full name for GABA. Let's understand certain things now from this. Acetylcholine is the principal neurotransmitter. That means it is the neurotransmitter that is taking part in the parasympathetic nervous system, PSNS. What do I mean by that? This autonomic nervous system is divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic. You have a nerve for that. You have a nerve. What is nerve here? Nerve means it is a bundle of neurons. You have a lot of neurons inside. You collectively call this as a nerve. Now, this nerve can be a sympathetic nerve or a parasympathetic nerve. It is a part of the sympathetic nervous system, or it can be a part of the parasympathetic nervous system. It provides impulses in the sympathetic nervous system or parasympathetic nervous system. Within the nerve, you have what? Neurons. And from one neuron to the other neuron, you will have a synapse. Or from the neuron to the muscle, or from the neuron to an organ. So it will not supply a muscle because this is a part of the autonomic nervous system. It supplies the internal organs of the body. So yeah, just as I said, you have a heart over here. If you have a parasympathetic nervous system that is supplying this, then acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter that is affecting the heart. Okay, so this is a part of parasympathetic nervous system. Adrenaline and noradrenaline, this is the principal neurotransmitter in sympathetic nervous system. This is also in sympathetic nervous system. The first priority is for noradrenaline, second priority is for adrenaline. Remember, acetylcholine parasympathetic, adrenaline and noradrenaline both are sympathetic. Okay, dopamine is there in the brain. Dopamine is there in the brain, and obviously whenever there is, as you grow older, it is a normal, maybe a part of the aging phenomena, but yes, people do have a disease caused by decreased amount of dopamine. If the dopamine level is decreasing, if decreasing, it can lead to a disease called by the name of, we all know that, Parkinsonism. Okay, the movement of the body will decrease, the muscular movement of the body will increase, the activity of the man is going to decrease, fine, and the activeness of the man is going to decrease. You will have expressionless face. So just by, for a doctor who is sitting in OPD, person who is coming, the person, when he comes to the OPD, he opens the door, he closes it at his back, and what happens is, he walks to the doctor, he sits in front of the doctor in a chair. So that particular movement of the person, that particular attitude of the person, right from the time he enters into the OPD and sits in front of the doctor, is just sufficient for the doctor, for an experienced doctor, to make a diagnosis of Parkinsonism. Because just by the attitude of the person, just by looking at or observing the muscular activity of a person, he can understand that this person is having Parkinsonism. Dopamine is decreasing. Okay, dopamine is an excitatory neurotransmitter over here. It is excitatory. That means when you have that, your activity will increase, muscles will start contracting. So for all the active movements of the body, you might need dopamine. And when that decreases, then the body will become towards the depressed side. The body will show less movements. Only point to remember here is GABA and glycine both are inhibitory neurotransmitters. A sentence in NCERT was that the action potential developed is excitatory or inhibitory. On what basis can I say it is excitatory or inhibitory? It is based on the neurotransmitter involved that I am saying that it is excitatory or inhibitory. If it is dopamine, then the action potential will be an excitatory action potential. The brain will function more. It is excited. But if it is obviously like some adrenaline is an excitatory neurotransmitter because it is sympathetic nervous system. When it falls onto the heart, your heart rate increases, cardiac output increases, the heart is excited. That means adrenaline is excitatory. Whereas acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter, then the heart rate will decrease. Parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest nervous system. Glycine and GABA are inhibitory neurotransmitter. Okay, so this is all we are supposed to know over here. So guys, I attempted my first AIIMS exam in the year 2016. AIIMS is normally conducted as 2 shifts. Either you get the morning shift, so you go to the examination hall in the morning, and after that there is an evening shift also. So I got evening shifts, okay, in 2016, and there was a question asked from this topic. So for understanding that, let me tell you in slightly more detail about the concept over here. This is something that is from my experience. So please don't take this as too out of the box or very difficult to learn, nothing of that kind. I'm just explaining this in the simplest way possible. Let us talk about something called by the name of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is taking part in parasympathetic nervous system. The nerves that are taking part or are a part of a parasympathetic nervous system will have the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. Let's go into good details of this particular topic now. See, let us suppose that this is my presynaptic membrane and this is my postsynaptic membrane. I think this much of gap will be sufficient for me to explain everything. You have acetyl coenzyme A. Yes, the same acetyl coenzyme A which takes part in the link reaction or the gateway pathway, oxidative dephosphorylation, acetyl coenzyme A to citric acid. I think so, isn't it? Pyruvate to acetyl coenzyme A. The same reaction, you remember this, isn't it? Pyruvate to acetyl coenzyme A. Now you have an oxaloacetic acid over here. This is a 4-carbon compound. This is a 2-carbon compound. Now this will join to form a 6-carbon compound called as citrate or citric acid. This is the process called as link reaction. Link reaction, gateway pathway. These are other names for that. It links the glycolysis with the Krebs cycle. This is the Krebs cycle. Now, this is actually an oxidative dephosphorylation. So there is an NADH is formed here, NADH plus H plus. I'm just revising this over here, okay? NADH plus H plus is formed over here, and oxidative dephosphorylation is also there. Now, a phosphate group is also released out of that. So, as the same acetyl coenzyme A is present over here in the presynaptic membrane. Okay, this will combine with choline, right? Acetyl coenzyme A plus choline will give you acetyl choline, right? What is the enzyme? Enzyme is choline acetyl transferase, which means from here, isn't it? Acetyl and choline are transferred to each other. This coenzyme A will go over there. It is released over here. Coenzyme A is released over here. You will get acetylcholine. It transfers acetyl group from acetyl coenzyme A to choline. Choline acetyl transferase. This and this will join, transferred between each other. Now these acetylcholine, as I was telling you, will be present in the form of vesicles. And this is my favorite color in here. So I will be marking this over here. You never know which color is going to come, isn't it? Right. This is your acetylcholine, ACH. This is the short form that we normally use for the purpose of mentioning that what I am talking about is acetylcholine. Now let us imagine that an impulse is coming into here, an action potential is coming into this, and this is going over here, this is going over here. right? And this will actually bind to, this will fuse with the presynaptic membrane. So then I will be just removing this particular area like this, right? And this is also removed like this. Okay, so that means now this is going to be released over here. This is parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so this is the your receptors, this is also your receptors. I don't want to go into details of the receptors. You have a lot of receptors over here. Nicotinic receptors, muscarinic receptors. We don't want to go into that details. You can learn that in the second year of your MBBS. So this is your receptors. Okay. Now what happens is, see, these acetylcholine will be binding over here, and that leads to an action potential in the neuron that is coming after that. Now, for how much time can I make my acetylcholine remain in the synaptic cleft? I can't let this stand within the synaptic cleft for a long time. This is not possible. If I keep on having this acetylcholine over here, it will keep on binding onto the receptors, and your muscles will be again, not muscles actually, your heart rate will again go on decreasing. That means there should be something to stop the action of acetylcholine after the action is completed. It cannot remain here for long. Otherwise, it will keep on affecting the receptors, and after some time, the receptors will be fed up. The receptors will start stopping working, will stop working after some time, because it is continuously being affected by the acetylcholine. So, acetylcholine action should be stopped after some time. And for that matter, to stop the action of acetylcholine, there is an enzyme, and that was the question that was asked in this exam. Why isn't this going? Right, it has gone. Let us understand what is the enzyme over here. So there is an enzyme that we are supposed to know, and this enzyme is actually blocking the effect of acetylcholine, right? And this acetylcholine is degraded by the enzyme, and this enzyme is called by the name of, very important name, that is acetylcholine esterase. ACH means acetylcholine, and esterase is esterase itself. This is an esterase type of an enzyme. So that's it, acetylcholine esterase. So the question in AIIMS was something like, which of the following enzymes will degrade acetylcholine to stop its action after the action is completed in the synaptic cleft? Your answer is acetylcholine esterase. Okay, this is a question that was asked in the AIIMS exam, which is very important now. It can be again asked in the NEET exam also. Okay, now once it degrades this, you will get acetic acid, acetate. Acetate means acetic acid plus choline. Point is, this was acetyl coenzyme plus choline, and this is acetate plus choline, right? And this choline is taken back into the presynaptic membrane. So this is called by the name of taking back. This is taking back the choline. You have a transporter here. We don't want to go into the details. Sodium choline importer. So what happens is that along with the sodium, this will go inside, and this will actually bind to acetyl coenzyme, and the cycle is completed. You have a cycle over here, isn't it? So this is all we are supposed to know so far as your topic of acetylcholine is concerned. Point is, acetylcholine is a part of parasympathetic nervous system, and yes, acetylcholine esterase is the enzyme which is present. Where is it present? It is present inside the synaptic cleft. It is degrading acetylcholine to stop its action of binding onto the receptors after some time. After its action is over, we don't want acetylcholine as such here. When the next nerve impulse comes, again we will sacrifice vesicle and release again acetylcholine. We don't want the same acetylcholine to remain here as such. If it remains over there, then it can cause other problems. So we have to degrade it somehow, and yes, it will be degraded to acetylcholine receptors. One more thing, let me tell you. Let us imagine that this is a muscle. Let us imagine that this is a muscle. You have acetylcholine receptors over here. These receptors, you have an autoimmune disease. So let us talk about an autoimmune disease over here. Right? You will have autoantibodies. Antibody will be attacking your own body. Now these antibodies will come and attack into the receptors now. Now the receptors are destroyed. Acetylcholine receptors are destroyed on the muscle. Now the muscle will not be excited anymore. That means your muscle will start weakening. This disease is called by the name of, very important, myasthenia gravis. Autoimmune disease affecting the acetylcholine receptors. That is all we are supposed to know. Okay, so yes, this is something that is taught in the topic of your locomotion and movement, isn't it? So please learn this along with the topic of acetylcholine now. So with that, I am coming to the end of this particular video. I hope I have covered everything that is required for a student of your age to cover any exam that is attempted, that is supposed to be written by you. Okay, so if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Click the bell icon to receive instant notification whenever I upload a new video on YouTube. Thank you.